Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Tavern Talks. I'm your wonderful host and, well, not game master tonight, but host of the roundtable. And tonight is a treat. This will be our second roundtable we've been able to do. Our first was homebrew GMs. This one is going to be lady GMs. And we had the chance to push out a bunch of questions out on Instagram. So we've gathered up 11 of them so far. And we're going to go over each one of those and kind of let the ladies tell us exactly what their thoughts are on these. But before we do that, we're just going to go with around the table real fast and let everybody kind of give an idea of who they are, where you can find them, and all that fun stuff. So based on my screen, we're going to start with Ashlyn first, or otherwise known as the Dollar Store DM.
What up, y'all? I'm Ashlyn, like you said, Dollar Store DM. I specialize in making cool terrain and minis and other things out of garbage and cheap materials because I am just human magpie and little goblin of crafting. Because I just follow the dopamine, I have an inability to pick a singular hobby and stick with a singular hobby. So if you follow me, it's a hodgepodge of everything, because we're here to have fun. I'm usually a DM. I DM for Roleplay Inc., which is a podcast with this lovely girly over here. I'm also a player on Blue Box RPG. I play Nida, the Water Cleric, on the Greyhawk Awakening Dark Sun series that is currently on a short hiatus. And we'll see what I'll come up with for our mini campaign in the middle. Also with this lovely lady here.
But we've never gotten to play together. She's only ever been my DM. I'm so excited.
We need to come up with something together.
All right. Well, we'll move on to Taylor.
Hello, everybody. I'm Taylor, also known as the Barbarian Barbie. I'm a professional natural bodybuilder, GM. I am a player, typically first and foremost. I am on Blue Box RPG as my Bard Jubilee. That's like a 5e Pathfinder hybrid, so I'm doing that. I am Captain Epony Brink on Ashlyn's podcast, Roleplay Inc. I have another mini campaign with Ashlyn coming up, and then I have another game that I don't think will be streamed, so I don't know. I'll keep you guys posted. I might be a Tiefling Warlock. We'll find out. So really, I do a whole lot of playing, a whole lot of lifting, and a whole lot of weird voices, and that's my jam. And I also do some mini painting on the side. But also I DM, mostly for kids.
Nice. Different questions. Punk Rock Jenny, you're up.
Hey friends, my name's Punk Rock Jenny. I am a recovering touring musician, and now I get to create content around Dungeons and Dragons, specifically around the psychology of being a dungeon master and world building, and tying music into the game for immersion and the importance of music and how games like Dungeons and Dragons can be used for healing. I have a strong focus on playing games in person, and I partner with a really cool company called Valiant Adventuring Company, where we bring affordable tabletop poster size maps to in-person games. And that's me.
Awesome. Beth?
Hello, Beth the Bard. I am a dungeon master, forever dungeon master, actually. I almost never play, but I do professionally DM, and I actually have a couple spots left at my table for D&D in a castle. And other than that, I wrote She is the Ancient, a gender-bent curse of Strahd, and I created TTRPG University, where I've got courses on like how to organize your game mastering and how to write and publish TTRPGs, things like that.
Awesome. And April.
Hello. My name's April Hill. I am the community manager for Modifius Entertainment. We make tabletop role-playing games and miniature skirmish games, board games, stuff like that. Like if you like Fallout or Skyrim or Dune or Star Trek Adventures, we make games for IPs like that, really popular IPs like that. I also GM professionally. I run our Fallout games on the Modifius Twitch channel that are also on our YouTube channel. I DM professionally, voice act, produce actual plays, do all the things that most of you all here do, terrain, miniature painting, all the things. I'm obsessed with the hobby and absolutely love it and made it a career. So, hey.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, right? Yeah. Well, like I said, we took a bunch of questions from Instagram, and I've pulled them all off of there, and we're just going to get kind of started. The first one that I got thrown at me was, how do you inspire and support players when creating a story at the beginning? So let's everybody roll your initiative die, and let's see who's going to start this conversation.
Are we doing that? We're doing that?
We're doing that.
We're doing that.
My Fallout dice.
Which one do I use?
I figured
That's always the question.
You need to roll a die at least once. So
I'm gonna use
11.
my chonky one.
11.
I'm gonna use
Fallout
my
dice
big
too?
pink one.
Oh, Jenny's looked like a Fallout dice too. Oh, hot pink, that's cute. Mine was
The die I made betrayed me and rolled a 1.
How do you know that doesn't mean you're going first? Like,
if you're playing
I'm very
2020,
average.
that's great.
Got a 10.
And that one is
did
a
anybody get above an 11?
Mm-mm.
No.
Oh, wow.
You should all just play 2d20. It's great.
So roll off between Beth and Jenny.
All right.
can I just give it to her?
You can.
I'll take it.
Oh, yay!
I'll be the starter offer. Although I did forget what the question was. Can you repeat that, James?
Yep. So how do you inspire and support players while creating a story in the beginning?
I think that's an awesome question, and I'm really glad that's our first question. But I think it's definitely dungeon master or game master dependent. But in my games have such a focus on emotional role playing. I don't play silly games. And I appreciate silly games, and I play silly games online for charity and things like that. But in my home game, it's very gritty, very emotional. There's crying and singing and all kinds of things at our table. But I try to craft our campaign around the characters' backstories. The author and dungeon master you guys are all probably familiar with, Sly Flourish is his pen name, has this idea, a short concept in one of his books, like The Lazy Dungeon Master, and he mentions your players don't really care about your story or your world, which isn't totally true, but it is a short way of saying your players really care about doing cool shit in your world, within your story, doing amazing things and getting to live that hero and being that person that has the courage in game when maybe they're not the person that has that real world courage out of game, and providing those opportunities and crafting those opportunities for them to have, to build them up. And I think that's the way I create that. And I bet you guys share a lot of that sentiment too.
Beth?
We're all answering the same question.
Everybody's gonna answer the same question. We're just
How
gonna
am I supposed to follow that? I choke up. Okay. Question was, yes, so integrating, I integrate my players' backstories into everything. So I give them the basic premise of where we're going to be, like is it going to be gritty? Is it going to be silly? Is it going to be this or that? And then beyond that, I actually don't plan more than the base minimum. And then I wait for them to give me their backstories. Like I require it. I'm like, backstory or no play. And then from there, I tie everything into really personalize it. There's actually a book I recently read, recently came out on Amazon called The Proactive Game Master. Highly recommend it. I started reading it. I was like, oh, this is how I do it. This is perfect. So like, go look at it.
April, you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. Safety tools, obviously safety tools are going to help with that. Just like you said so something that I love to do is I have my players make a backstory, they write the backstory, and I usually have, especially for a long running campaign, I have an overarching, I have an idea of the story that we're going to, the main beats of the story that we're gonna touch on, but then I read the characters' backstories and then I pull from their backstories. Okay, and this is how I build onto the bare bones of the idea of the overarching theme or story. So doing stuff like that. Also, it depends on what kind of games it is. Like when I was doing therapeutic D&D sessions with Wounded Warrior Project, it was, okay, this person really needs to go through this. This person really needs to touch on this. This is what they're working through in therapy this week. And so it was working with stuff like that, and the team at Wounded Warrior Project, and knowing what needed to happen in sessions so that they could experience things to talk about that week. So so really different sessions, different things that for that. So
yeah. Ashley?
I'm the last. I rolled nat 1.
Well, I'm just going around the circle at this point.
Oh, now we're just doing that. Okay. Something I've done the last 2 campaigns I started, so my home game and then the podcast as well, is I have my players come up with 2 NPCs. They don't have to be alive, but give me 2 NPCs. This is not a guarantee that they will show up, but it helps me flesh out a world. It helps me see what sorts of characters that they want to see. And it helps them feel like I'm not just writing, because I DM for my home group isn't a bunch of writers, not a bunch of actors. I have 1 actor. It's just a bunch of friends sitting around a table. We're not there to tell something super profound. We're there to have some beers, eat some brie, and play some dice games. So it helps them feel like it's not high pressure. They don't have to come up with a novel. And so even my players who struggle with coming up with the backstories feel like they can come up with an NPC. And I found that really, really helps. I've also run I was a middle school teacher, and I ran our middle school D&D crew of 11, 13-year-olds, which is fun. And they're all very, very enthusiastic. If you've ever run D&D for children, they are into it, and they will come up with some wacky things. With them, I just let them roll with it. Just let them do the cool thing, because at the end of the day, they're having a blast. I don't worry as much about overarching things with that age group. I tend to write in like 3-act sections, and I'll have a vague idea of what's going to happen in each one. But players be players. Things are going to go differently. Don't hold on to your storyline super tight, because they're not going to follow it. They're going to steal a pirate ship their first session when you only have a singular island and immediately try to sail off within 5 minutes.
Oof. That's about right. Taylor, you want to add anything to this?
Actually, interestingly enough, first of all, April, I need to pick your brain about therapeutic D&D because I work in mental health and substance abuse, and that's amazing. So I want to know all about that. But as far as creating a world and factoring characters into it, I have primarily run games for kids. So that was actually a perfect segue from Ashlyn, because most of the games that I have run have been for kids between the ages of like 8 and 16. And that, like Ashlyn said, gets real wild. I've spent an hour-long session with them talking about how they're going to catapult poop at things, because that's what they do. So I think that when it comes to incorporating characters for kids that age, it's a lot harder for the DM to incorporate that, because their characters are fluctuating in personality the same way that the kids are. There's no set, this is my personality. One day they're feeling this way, the next day they're feeling this way. So it's hard to get a feel for it. So really what I try to do is, most of my content is homebrewed. And what I'll do from there is, as I get a feel for their characters, I'll modify what I already have written and kind of just work and tweak with the sessions as I go to make sure that they're fitting in the way that they want to, versus trying to either make them fit or have them write me an elaborate backstory, because when you're 8 years old, that's not happening.
No, I can chime in on that one. That's definitely the case. I have a 9-year-old right now. Playing D&D for him is, here's the D20 for what you're going to do normally. Here's the weapon dice. We're going to go for this and see where it starts. And normally it's, wolves exploding into candy or something strange like that. So, awesome.
They do make a My Little Pony TTRPG. Just saying.
It's amazing.
Exploding candy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. All right. Well, I hope everybody's starting to kind of get warmed up, and the chat's enjoying what you're hearing so far. I'm going to kind of bounce around because we're talking about certain things, and hopefully I'm hitting as we continue to go through it. So kind of answered that one was kind of similar. So this one's interesting, and this one's going to be something that's going to be more right now in the moment. But what is something recently that has kind of caught your attention and inspired you to, let's say, maybe your newest campaign or a new character, something like that? That's all I have. That's all I've got is what's something that inspired you recently. So everybody pick up their dice.
I have to roll again.
Yeah.
Ah, my dice fell off.
Ooh,
16.
That one.
15. Y'all rolled better this time. Oh, well, except for Ashley.
It looks like Beth's going first then.
No,
I'm
wait,
gonna
no.
put this die away.
She's like 17. Yes. And then she's like, oh, wait, no, that's not what I wanted.
Wait, so for real, I gotta go first?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, recently.
I can trade with you, Beth, if that helps.
Recently, the question is something that was cool.
That inspired you, yes.
That inspired me. Okay,
Yes.
okay. I was telling these guys about this before we went on, so I'll just do that again. My last castle game, I did like this Neverland setting, and we all did like, session 0 and lines and veils and everything beforehand, but everybody played a child dealing with some sort of childhood trauma, like getting kicked out of their home, being abused, like things like that. And it was really wild to me how enthusiastic this group was to because I was like, I don't know if this idea is gonna fly. Like I have like such a thing here, and they were all like, oh my god, yes. And they dug in so hard and made these intricate stories, and we're all sobbing at the end. But it just went to I normally play really silly games, like just ridiculous shit. So this one really got me, because I was like, oh, is this what serious gaming feels like? Yeah, so that's
Awesome. April?
TikTok? Fucking love TikTok, man. I
Ace.
get so many new ideas through TikTok. And my husband, by the way, just texted me and was like, "Hey, can we go punk rock, Jenny? I saw you somewhere over TikTok." So he was excited that you were on. And I was like, I didn't. It's funny. So yeah, TikTok, getting a lot of ideas. Like I try not to do the classical thing if it's Dungeons and Dragons anyway. I try not to do the you meet in a tavern, but like hearing how other DMs start sessions, start long campaigns and stuff like that. It's really cool seeing how other people start campaigns and stuff like that. So it's been a really cool resource for ideas on stuff like that and arcs and stuff you can do. Like I pulled one over on my my brother-in-law who plays in my home campaign, where he likes to play shapeshifters and changelings and stuff like that, and he shifted into a woman in this town. We were actually doing Spelljammer, and he had shifted into a female dock worker coming off the ship and on this planet. And I had this little girl run up to him. "Mom, you're home." Oh, it killed him. Got that idea from TikTok. Got that idea. I was like, oh, you're gonna shift into somebody that you just killed and take their form. I'm gonna make you meet their children. Oh, it was like one of the best moments ever. So yeah, thank you, TikTok.
You watch his eyes, like just.
Oh yeah.
Trauma.
A trauma.
I love it.
Yeah, so that's my inspiration.
Awesome, Ashlyn.
Sorry, I'm still comprehending.
That was so good. Everybody at the
Can I
table
use
was like,
that? Can that be my inspiration? Just like the people I get to talk to.
Yeah.
Like beyond just like watching the TikToks, I have a bunch of friends throughout this community, and I have a few people that are my go-to bounce ideas off of DMs. So in particular, if you follow him, NPC Voices, Josh. One of my really, really good friends. He like dragged me into LARP and all of this stuff. But we are each other's DM buddy. Because we can't talk about anything with any of our in-person friends because they all play in our games, so I can't. So being able to have those conversations with him, I have the best ending to this campaign. It's been running for 3 years. I'm so excited. I'm going to traumatize my best friend. It's great. Awesome. I am so excited to make him have feelings. And it's all because I had these conversations, because I was stuck. When you get in that rut, you just need to go and find a buddy and just be your wall to bounce things off of. They don't even have to give you any ideas. You just need to like at them.
I've been in such a like writer's block preparing for a new stream in 2024, and I'm like, what do I do? And I'm finding a buddy. I don't know who it's going to be yet, but I'll find somebody.
Everybody out there, I will be your buddy. I love being people's buddy for this because it gives me ideas too.
Yeah, 100%. Taylor?
James, if you don't have a buddy, did you know that there's a whole subreddit dedicated to this whole idea that Ashlyn's talking about having a DM buddy? It's called DM Divulge, where you can, if you have to tell somebody, you can spill it out in this entire subreddit of DMs, and to have all your secrets out.
Interesting. That might be helpful. All right, Taylor.
Cole McGinnis.
Cole McGinnis.
I have been so music for me is a huge inspiration. I can listen to a song and create an entire scene or battle or encounter or NPC based on whatever music I'm listening to. Yes. So Cole McGinnis has been my go-to right now. It's a lot of like sea shanty type stuff, but for whatever reason, it's great. Like tavern music. I believe he also wrote, he did the music for one of the new Critical Role streams. That it was like a mini series that they did. So I believe he also did music for them. But just in general, like music, I don't even have TikTok. I don't do any of I probably should.
As our social media person, you probably should.
Everybody's like, I don't either.
She's the
Taylor,
social media
don't
manager for the
either, like-
podcast.
I just live on Instagram.
Yeah, I just go on
Instagram is where
I couldn't-
TikToks go like a month later.
Well, that's the thing is I'm a little delayed, but I still see them. But yeah, so music for me is my big thing. So that's been my specific go-to. I can always listen to the Witcher soundtracks and write some shit. But that's my jam. No pun intended.
All right.
I have a whole campaign in my head for Taylor Swift. You say- I'm not kidding.
I made a whole my Christmas one shot last year was all just puns on songs. So every scene was a different
Oh
song.
wow,
I love that.
nice.
The big bad was Mariah Carey. She was a
Oh yeah, I can see
As
that.
she should be.
Yeah, she should be the lady in red.
Oh.
And at the end of the puzzle. All right, Jenny.
James, if you don't have TikTok, how do you even know who I am? How did you even find me? That's like all I do.
I don't even. I was
month later
searching.
it shows up on Instagram.
Probably that's exactly
Probably.
what happened. Like,
That must be it.
yeah.
Two things I've been drawing a lot of inspiration from lately. Just like Taylor, albums, new music is always fuels my writing and my campaigns and my world building. I think in the fall, I think it was in October, composer Jonas B. Ingebretsen, who is this composer, I think he's in one of those Nordic countries, is in like Norway or something, released a brand new, really orchestral melodic album that is incredible for building like epic fantasy worlds. Check him out. Jonas B. Ingebretsen just came out with a new album. And then our friend, the Alexandrian, if you've never checked out the Alexandrian, it's a Dungeon Master resource online that I would give credit a lot to helping me get started as a Dungeon Master once upon a time. He actually just wrote a real book for Dungeon Masters. And I'm drawing a blank on what it's called. So You Want to Be a Game Master by Justin Alexander is a new book that just came out in the past couple weeks. It's like the resource I wish I had when I started DMing for the very first time early on. And I know all of you ladies know this. Like, you're like, all right, I'm gonna DM, I'm gonna run a campaign, and you open up the Dungeon Master's Guide, right? And you're like, the first page is like, cool. So the first thing that you do to be a dungeon master is you have to build an entire world, and you have to start a giant pantheon, and that's how you begin. And it's like confusing as all hell, and it like kind of sets you off on this crazy path, and you're incredibly overwhelmed. And this is kind of like a rewrite step by step on making player-centric campaigns in a way that where the Dungeon Master's Guide really drops the ball.
Interesting.
I will
Check
fully
that book
admit
out
to
too.
having never read the DMG.
You're seriously not missing anything. It's a hot
Yeah.
mess.
It
Yeah.
is.
I've
I
read
used it to
bits and
prove myself
pieces, but
right.
I've never read it. It's like
Guide.
It's a guide.
Guide.
It's in the
Guidelines.
It does have some great resources and some awesome tables in there for
Yeah.
beginner world builders.
Yeah.
Right. Next question. What do you see as the? No, this is going to be. We'll see if how this one goes. What do you see
Way
as
to
the
set it up.
next?
Be
What's that?
spicy. Be a
Way to
spicy
set that one up.
What do you see as the next frontier for expanding inclusion and acceptance at the table? Some of these are deep. I'm
Whoa.
just putting them out here.
Whoa, I thought these were all going to be weird and creepy, but these are like real and serious with depth.
Yeah, apparently my like Instagram, it's all people that actually want to know stuff about D&D and not just
It's the
random weird
community
and creepy
you
stuff.
So it's not the people that are in my DMs.
Yeah,
Apparently
we have
not.
very different DMs.
Yeah, you got a very different DM.
Are we
Mine.
rolling for this?
Poor Taylor.
Yeah, we're gonna roll for this one. So
Okay. 16.
just
Oh, that's a
Who
nat
gets the-
one.
see who gets to get put on the spot. I'm almost gonna have to start going backwards. Like if you hit the nat one because you failed, that's when you start first. But I won't be that
16.
16.
16.
Because I swapped to my Starlight dice.
Okay.
12.
12. Beth?
Oh my god, I got a 12 also, so it's an 11 now.
You have a -1 to initiative.
I do.
All right, Ashlyn and April, roll off. Unless somebody wants to go.
I got a 19 the second time.
1.
Oh gosh. It's great. Cool. Yeah. So the next step is opening. So it's not necessarily. This is a very interesting question because it doesn't. It can, but doesn't always fall to the game master to be the one to have to write
That
these
did
things
not
into a
work.
game. Something that I can speak to personally that we're doing with Modiphius is especially we just had a very successful Kickstarter with Cohorse Cthulhu, which is our Roman inspired Cthulhu tabletop role playing game, and a lot of people, not a lot, well I say a lot, not a lot, but we did have some pushback on pronouns being a part of the character sheet, and I think that that we can only do so much with that, with inclusivity and stuff at the table. It also has to come from the publishers first as well, and so I think hopefully other publishers, and from what I'm seeing, because I'm friends with like a lot of the other publishers in the space and stuff, and people that work for them and stuff. So I think that the trend is going to be that publishers are going to start helping with the inclusivity part, and people are going to be putting safety tools in their book, and it to be a part of the game that you have those safety tools and that you have those inclusivity pieces established, so that it's there, and it's not something that you're like, oh, I'm going to add this to your sheet, or oh, I'm going to make sure that this happens. It's going to be just part of the culture, because the publishers are going to make it part of the culture. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Hey, I mean, it's good to see that happening. So, Ashlyn, anything you want to add to that?
Kind of piggybacking off of that, like it has to go top down. The people who have a seat at the table are the ones who need to pull up more chairs, because they're the ones who have that voice. And if you have the voice, those are the people who need to use the voice. So having it come from the publishers, having it come from people in the community that other people listen to, having it become part of the culture as opposed to a addition, something that's new and novel, doesn't help. Having it become ingrained and just natural. It's like when we're learning things as kids. You have to make it just part of the routine for it to just be second nature. It's the reason that, like, we don't think about the sounds of letters often when we're looking at reading things. We just know it because it's part of how we function. The same thing goes with these more social aspects. It has to become natural. It has to become something that's just standardized. Which is where we see more people adding pronouns who are just cis, where it becomes just acceptance. And it's acceptance without necessarily agenda.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it is.
Taylor, you want to add to that?
And hiring sensitivity writers. Sorry, that was also.
Couldn't get my mic to turn back on. I was like, what the heck? I think that just piggybacking off of what everybody else said, I know that for myself, as someone that is part of the LGBTQ plus community, the inclusivity of just having the right people at your table too, like making sure that the community that you surround yourself with and the people that you continue to surround your players and your friends with, that will eventually kind of overshadow and push the non-accepting people out of the community. I have really personally never had an issue. I mean, let me say I've never had an issue, but I've had plenty of people say, oh, you're a female at the table. How does it feel just looking for attention playing Dungeons and Dragons? You don't actually like to play. You're only here because you're a woman.
Whoa.
That is something that I have heard. So I think that generally inclusivity comes from surrounding yourself with people that include you and where you can include them as well. Consent forms, very important. I have gotten pushback for using consent forms in my own games, and I have also gotten pushback when I have provided consent forms. Like, I've played in games where people have said, I don't understand why this is here. I don't want to fill this out. This is very, like, snowflakey, I think was the term that was used. But we all need to be sensitive to other people's triggers and trauma and things that they've experienced in their life. If your biggest problem with the game is filling out a piece of paper that will save someone else from a whole lot of hurt, then maybe you're in the wrong space. That's that.
No, I completely agree there. Jenny, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I am sitting at this virtual table with some incredibly smart people here. I'm so like honored to be in this discussion with you guys because and some of this, especially from like the top down, the trickle down stuff, I had never really even considered about, you know, the folks with the actual seat at the table and the power that they wield to influence, you know, what our friend on Instagram called, you know, the next frontier for expanding inclusion. And so I love all of that. And I love the way that as the community evolves, it's not just the pressure on the game publishers to evolve as well. It's that the game just organically evolves, right? There's no new Dungeon Masters guide that has come out that has revolutionized how we do a session 0, but people in the community have, right? They've made the tools, they've made the changes, they've come up with a way to manage player expectations to make sure that people are at the right table with the right DM. I think the evolution is happening, whether we wanted to or not. Like, it's going to happen. And you get to decide where you want to be on that side of history. And I think it's really cool. And I'm honored to be at this table with you guys and how revolutionary you guys are in taking a stand to making sure that it is an inclusive community. So thanks for having me here, I guess. That was a weird way to say thank you.
Beth?
So I everything that Ashlyn said, like that. And there's just, I think that it's really important that these things become just the standard normal, like talking about session 0. I am actually shocked when I hear people are like, oh, we don't do session 0. I'm like, I thought that that everybody did this now. Like, so I think that these things being the majority, and something that I had to do when I first started running for teenagers, because I used to run a lot of groups for teens, and it was always teenage boys. I don't know. That's just, they were always teenage boys. And what I made sure to do was run an extremely feminist, like femme-inclusive game for them, until it was no longer like weird for them. And that was another thing. Like, my partner was creating creating an anime TTRPG thing, and it's very like shonen based, and he was using like a lot of male terminology, characters, things like that as like the default. And we had this chat about that, and he like tweaking the language, not calling it shonen because that's specifically geared toward boys, including more women in the stories, things like that, until it became the norm. We just need to it needs to be normal and like not that's
like I said, it becomes the thing.
And it's gonna be weird until it's normal.
Yeah,
Right, like,
exactly.
Like back in 1E, wasn't it female characters could only play certain classes, and it was like, no, you're a female, you can only play
Female characters
and they
I
had
have to
different
pull. I have
classes,
to pull
different
up.
stat
I don't
packs.
even have 1E, so I
it was
can't see.
it was so it is that was it was a whole thing. Like, the females could not play fighters, or I mean, if you were a female, you could play a fighter, but you had to play a male character that's playing a
Right.
fighter and stuff
And
like
then
that. Like,
there
it
were
was
specific strength caps for female characters. So if you were playing a female character, you specifically couldn't max out your strength because it wouldn't make sense, and all of these things.
The game was designed not for women to play. It was truly designed with thinking of a bunch of dudes sitting around a table tactically playing, and it wasn't even designed to be the complete storytelling game that it's become now.
Right.
And I love, and again, it's back to the revolution that it's become, that the community took it and transformed it into something so much greater than it was ever intended to be.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, I've talked to a lot of people that played 1E and whatnot, and they built it, Dungeons and Dragons wasn't built for storytelling. It was built as almost like a skirmish game at first. They were trying to build it that way. And then look at what it's become now, where it's, it's literally just a catalyst for storytelling. I mean, at this point.
And you know what I love? Now
Sure.
Luke has Luke. So obviously the heir, well, not the heir, but Gary's son has all daughters, and they're all dungeon masters and all players. And I'm like, fuck yeah. I love that so much for that family line. They're doing it right on that side of the family. And it's really
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Luke right there. So,
Yes.
Nice.
we're doing Taylor, you should join us at GaryCon. We're doing a bodybuilding workout session at GaryCon. Yes.
What?
I'll get you connected to that. Was it outside of this? I'll get you connected to that. So it's called Body by Gygax. So he's doing a whole.
Tell me when.
Yeah,
what do you guys do? Lift really heavy dice? Like what happened?
Yeah, really curl
So
some.
we real quick story. So met him last year at Genghis in Colorado Springs. We started talking. He's prior military. I was prior military, and we were both deciding, what we were going to do after the military. And we're like, well, we still want to train. We still want to play Dungeons and Dragons, all that fun stuff. So after Gen Con, he had mentioned something to me. He's like, yeah, I want to do some fitness meetup at GaryCon next year. And then now it's turned into Body by Gygax. So I'll get you that information here after the stream. So just outside this. All right, cool. Let's kind of play into the conversation before. So what's one tip for a new GM with new players?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Everybody's new.
Everybody's new. You're a new GM and they're new players. So everybody's pretty much. Apparently, we found a crew that has never been to Barnes and Nobles and picked up a random book, and we're like, what is this? And we've got the whole crew with us. All right, everybody roll.
I got this one. Okay, roll.
17.
She's like, I'm not 20 in this.
9.
8.
10.
What was that, April?
12.
Okay, so Taylor, you're gonna
All
start us
right.
with this one.
Cool. So I'm going to go with what Beth said earlier, session 0, because I don't necessarily need to. I mean, I would like to know you as a player. If you want to get to know me as a GM, that's cool. If we're all new to it, I want to know what I'm working with as far as personalities, and if you're into RP, if you prefer encounters, that way I can scale and build my world around what you're interested in. Getting little bits and pieces of everybody's desires and flavors and what they like and what they don't like. Get those consent forms early. I mean, if you're a new GM, you probably don't know the first thing about consent forms. You're like, I'm just scared and I have this book in front of me and I don't know what I'm doing. But that's okay, because if you have the right group and you all discuss where you're at, I know so many new players that don't know the mechanics of the game and they're nervous to even start playing. And as a fairly new GM, that matters to me so little. Like, you enjoying your time at the table is what matters to me. I do not care if you have no idea how to play. I will take time out of the session to teach you how to play, either before or after or during a session 0. So do your session 0s. If you're a new GM out there and you're watching this and you don't know where to start, just do a session 0 with every person in your campaign.
Right. Jenny?
I'm the wrong person to ask for this. I am a big believer that there is a table for everyone, right? That your style of gameplay, your table's out there, and not every DM is for every player, and not every player is for every table. And I personally don't enjoy playing with new players. It's not my style. My momentum is all lost if I have to stop and explain a mechanic to somebody. So I now, outside of playing with my kid and his friends, I don't play with new players. But I feel like it's something I'd like to get better at, and so I can't wait to hear what the rest of the chicks at this table have to say about it.
All right, Beth, you've been
Okay,
waiting
I got
for this
this, I
one.
got this, I got this.
This is Beth.
So, like, first of all, because I remember viscerally what it was like to get the starter kit from Target several years ago, bring it home to the table, plop it down, and with my kids, and I'm like, all right, game night, and opened it up, and we're like, we're gonna learn as we go, just like Monopoly.
Oh no!
That's fine.
And since then, I have taught a bunch of newbies how to play. It's like one of my core things I do to pay my rent is teach new people how to play D&D. So, but going back to what I did when I was first trying to learn, because I could not figure it out, the Lost Mine starter kit was terrible. I had no idea. I couldn't figure it out for anything. So what we did was we went straight to YouTube and we started watching some actual plays. I ended up coming across Girls Guts Glory, and so my daughters and I were like, oh, let's watch this one. It's all women. And like, so they're the reason I even like learned how to GM, how my kids learned how to play, and then I met two of them last year and I was like, oh, I love you guys so much. You're the reason I'm here. Anyways, but like, so just watching other people play to get like immerse in a TTRPG story before trying to like, you know, do one yourself. The other thing is, these dice are so difficult for new game masters and new players, and so you get a pillbox, and you can label them, and you put your dice in each one, so that nobody's mistaking their D20 from their D12 and things like that. So
That
like,
is
this is
genius.
Oh my goodness!
Yes.
Never thought of that.
Beth, I
I
got
like-
things to follow you up on.
this is what I do, man.
So,
So yeah,
Yes.
that was really helpful for me as the game master too, because I was like, what the hell is a D20? Yeah, so those are my really, really, really big tips.
Oh, that's huge. No, the pillbox, like
that's genius.
that's genius. Yeah, April.
I have been playing D&D for like 5 years, and I still get my D20 and my D12 confused.
Oh,
if I'm
you
just
do.
reaching for something real quick.
Consistently.
8, 10, and 12. I will pick up the wrong one the first time every single time. And I've been playing for over 20 years now, and I'm like, I'm still not doing well. I don't
Going
know
off
what
of
it
the
is.
pillbox, manipulatives. This is the middle school
Yes.
teacher and me talking.
Mhm.
Manipulatives. I
Beth and I both homeschool. Dice.
Yep.
Yeah, homeschooling parent.
Yep.
yep. Because I used to teach the kiddos how to play, I made a beginner's Dungeons and Dragons guide. If anybody wants that at any point, you can send me a message. I will track it down. I don't know what computer it's on at the moment, but I will find it for you. And in it had a paper that had, not only did it have a picture of each die in the proper size so my kids could put their die on the correct picture, it had a description of when do you use this die, which was really helpful for them. I also, if you have spellcasters, because spellcasting is really hard for newbies, I took bottle caps and I just like spray painted them all black and then put like 1, 2, 3, and then you get the amount of tokens for each of those slots, and you just turn in your tokens to the DM as you're going. When you take a long rest, you get your tokens back. Having something physical is so helpful for new players because there's so many things to keep track of. Have things on the table. I am a terrible theater of the mind person because of my ADHD. I have to have physical representation, but just simple bottle caps work really well for that. Get some gummy bears, make them your enemies so you can eat them as you go along. Find what's going to work for your particular brains. And for the GM, when you're new, don't try and build everything yourself right away unless that is the type of brain that you have. Don't feel like you have to. There are amazing GMs out there, amazing DMs. You can get so much inspiration from. You don't have to be them. Don't feel like you have to be Matt Mercer. You have to do all of the voices. Be you. it's going to be so much better if you are being yourself than if you're trying to be somebody else. And it's going to take a while to find your voice. It's going to take a while to find your storytelling aspect. I don't use modules because I don't trust my player to not break it immediately. And I learned that through the first module that I ever ran, and then went, wow, I can't trust you guys with this. But a module's a really great place to start as a new GM. You don't need to make everything. There are so many resources out there. Find your DM buddy, find a veteran, bounce ideas off of them. You're not in it by yourself. Find what resources are going to work for you. Don't compare yourself to other people.
April, did we missed you?
Yeah, it's fine. It's cool. No,
I think
no, no,
Beth
I got excited
and
about
Ashlyn were
manipulatives.
just super excited on this one.
no. I love that. No, so
So can I be the dumb person in the group for this one? So what is manipulative? Like, I've never heard the word.
It's something that you can manipulate. So
Oh,
a
okay,
physical
got it.
object. So those tokens, that is a manipulative.
Got it.
I'm
Okay.
using teacher speak.
yeah,
Miniature
Like when you're
maps,
learning
all
math,
of that is.
You
Yeah.
use little
Yeah.
building blocks
Yeah,
to represent
got it.
numbers.
yeah.
Got it. I've got a 9-year-old, so that'll come in handy. Like,
Mhm.
I've got it. So, all right.
Yeah, so I do love modules, especially for new players and new DMs.
Yes.
New players won't know how to break games, and new DMs for me, well, and GMs, I like having a guide for them, because usually in modules, it'll tell you what to roll, when to roll, and tell them what to tell, and tell you what to tell your players on why they're rolling it. And I love that. So it's teaching you the verbiage. It's teaching you as a GM what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, and why. So I actually love modules for new players and new GMs. And I mean, once you get in the groove and once you start playing that module, then just go off the rails. Then you're like, okay, I got this, because it's like riding a bike. You'll get on it, you'll get in the module, and then you'll just be like, I want to take this story somewhere else. And it just gives you the push to really get you going. And also the rule of cool. I know that's like beating a dead horse or whatever. But the rule of cool, you don't have to stop the session for 30 minutes to look up a rule. You don't. If you're the DM, the GM, you can just be like, you can do that, or tell me how you think you're going to do this. What roles do you think that you need? Like, so yeah, so rule of cool. Just let people, as long as everybody's having fun, you don't got to stop and like be a rules lawyer. It's fine. Just have fun, because it's a game. So who cares? Unless you're teaching it on a stream, and then you kind of have to know the rules. That's a different thing. That's not for new players and new DMs.
It's not for new players.
Yeah,
and
don't
new
do
DMs.
it live on the internet.
Yeah, don't do that. Just yeah.
Unless you want it to be hilarious.
Yeah.
And you can. I'm not
I
gonna
get.
yuck anyone's yell.
I taught myself how to play the One Ring on the internet live, and it was rough at times. It was fun, but it was not the easiest thing to do right away. So this is one that, I mean, even me playing D&D for as many years as I have, I still have struggles with it. So hey, let me ask you, ladies, this one. So what are strategies to make long travel times in a campaign enjoyable, entertaining? Anything over a day's worth of time.
Ew.
I
have to
have
roll?
Yeah, we're
I
gonna
just
roll
start
for this
talking?
one. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
you
gosh.
can, but
I can't stop talking.
Got an 8.
6.
I got 19.
Ashlyn,
10.
April,
2.
Taylor, you're up again.
All right. I would say to make travel time pass, you can either add things along the way. If you are trying to make it flow and you really don't anticipate anything happening, if you don't want anything to happen on this long travel time, I will ask my players, are you trying to get from point A to point B, or do you see yourselves trying to veer off at any point? That way you can just move right through it. if you are able to move right through it. I'm not going to torture my players with a full, because I've played sessions that are 8 to 11 hours long. Like I've sat at the table for 8 to 11 hours, and I'm not going to make them travel for the full 8 to 11 hours. If I can say to them, so is the plan to get from here to here? Yes. Okay. It takes you this many days. It takes you this much time. You did it. Congratulations. Or we'll throw an encounter in halfway or whatever. But I see no reason to force people to do entire days-long sessions of just travel.
Danny?
I think it's super table dependent, kind of like what Taylor was saying about what your players' goals are, but what they get out of the game. If you have a table that lives for tactical combat, yeah, grab a random encounter to break up your travel. But if you have a table like mine who will role play for 9 hours straight without taking a breath or a bathroom break, let them go. Maybe they just need a night where they don't have an incredibly taxing combat encounter, and they just want to hash out some of their backstory. Or, and if you are one of those world building DMs that's obsessed with your world, travel time is like my favorite place to hide foreshadowing, whether it's in the way the slice of life storytelling with the smoke curling up out of the fire at night, or the constellations that my characters see in the sky as they're laying down before a long rest. It is my favorite time to kind of either lay a little lore or lay a little foreshadowing for something to come.
Beth?
Yeah, I skip it.
She's like straight up.
I hate the travel thing, and my tables are all like we've tinkered with it, and they're just like, I don't know. I guess the people I attract to my tables are also like, So what I do is I'm like, okay, you guys have traveled. What did you do during those travels? And we'll have like some roles, and they do like their crafting and whatever the things they wanted to do during those like slow times, and then I just cutscene. I'm like, look it, we're at the castle. Yeah, I skip them.
April?
Same. Either skip. Weather is fun. Weather, that can be a lot of fun because they won't expect it unless you like do weather all the time. But if you throw in a weather travel here and there, like tornadoes, that's so much fun. Tornadoes, and having them find shelter, and then maybe they find if like it's Fallout, they find a bus and they get in the bus, and then the tornado comes, and that's fun. But also I usually, and this like you guys have said, it depends on your table. I like to use travel and campfire time for RP, because I usually play with heavy RP tables, especially on stream. Players that this is their time to really start getting to know one another's characters and getting to ask questions, and really getting into those relationships and developing the relationships, and finding out each other's secrets and how their backstories might connect with each other's. And so I like using travel for RP a lot if I don't skip it or throw something crazy random in there like weather. So yeah.
Ashlyn?
Very much the same as everyone else. However, because my home campaigns tend to be very long, I tend to run my campaigns for 3 years. They have a tendency to go to the same places sometimes, and they'll have to cross an entire continent. The first time you make that journey, we are going to do more things along the way, because that's going to be the world building. You get to see all the different things. You're riding on the back of a giant lizard clambering through the badlands of the desert. We're going to go through that because you spent time trying to get one of these lizards. The second time we do it, I'm skipping over that. We don't need to do it again. You've gotten that world building. Unless there's something I need to happen along the way for story reasons, I'm not going to bog it down. I have a fast travel system currently. In their current one, they have, and it was entirely because I just didn't want to do any more travel in this 3-year campaign, and they've been to all the places, is they have the and it also worked story-wise, is they have the claw of the Dracolich, this the big bad, that the Dracolich's undead horde has been using to transport the army to different points in the plane, and they have this hive mind, so if one member of the horde has seen the location, the entire horde can go there, which was a really scary idea for my players because they encountered the horde way further west than they should have, or that they thought they would. And so it became a plot device, but it also means that they now can just fast travel to places they've seen. They have to roll an Arcana check, and if they roll poorly, things may happen and you might end up somewhere else. But having that way that I don't have to keep doing travel time when they're like level 18 characters, I'm not going to throw bandits at them. We did that already. We're past that point of the story. We've gotten our fast travel packs. We've gotten the power-ups. We don't need to walk across the whole map again. Just like in a video game, you get tired of going across the same landscape over and over and over. And I get tired of describing it over and over. Find a fast travel system if you're running a really long campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I see in the chat the level 18s versus mosquito swarms. That's actually great because they still don't have great constitution saving throws. Anybody can get sick. Doesn't matter what level you are.
Just saying.
Taylor.
All right.
I know real well. I know very well. Playing with
They
Ashlyn is
encountered-
scary.
They encountered bugs on their travel day and contracted diseases.
Malaria for all. All right.
That was the one that you ran in the pyramids that I played a tiefling.
Oh no, this was in a podcast when you were going through the jungle. You guys kept getting bitten by bugs.
Yes. Oh my, what a god! And I think you also did it when we were playing that one shot that you had me in.
Probably, but that wasn't travel. That was just me making up an entire
Yeah.
one shot on stream because I did no prep and I just had to prep.
Sounds about right. Okay, so what is your biggest pet peeve at the table? This was a question. So, yeah. I'm seeing eye rolling. I'm seeing angry faces go.
I got another 17.
Thinking. Okay. Anybody above a 17?
13.
5.
It's not about the 17. That wasn't the question.
Taylor, you're at it again.
Biggest pet peeve at the table, side conversations, especially if you're, I mean, it's much harder if you're playing in an online game, but if you are at a home table, if you are sitting with a bunch of people around you, if you are having a conversation, I don't care if you're whispering, I don't care if you're talking at your normal volume, I don't care if you're yelling, I'm gonna chuck a die at you from across the table. Shut up. Shut up. Let somebody RP. Shut your mouth.
All right. Jenny?
I love that, Taylor. I want Taylor to come chuck things at players at my table. Please come over.
Please go.
Please come over. You know, I feel like when I was worse at vetting players, I had more pet peeves. But now that I play with a group that I've played with for a long time, years now, I feel like it's much more difficult to find a pet peeve because you find your groove and you talk through those expectations in depth. But when I reflect on other tables, I think, just anything that would be distracting at the table. I know I have a good friend who has a no phones rule at the table, and I get that, but like everyone at my table, we're parents, we have professional jobs, some of them are working like medicine, and like we gotta have our phones. You know, especially if you're away from your kids, you gotta have your phone. So I don't like that rule, but if there's a side conversation or worse, you know, a side conversation happening between two players and they're texting each other or they're discording each other in the middle of the game, like just wait till the end. And my players and I even came up with, some of them have felt so distracted that they've come up with like a respect about eating rule. And it's not that we can't have snacks, but it's that you eat before the game to kind of show everybody else that you care enough about this game to take the time to eat before you come. And so that way it's not like all over the place in the middle of the game. And I know there are much more casual games, but we don't, again, as parents, and I know a bunch of you are parents too, like there's not a lot of free time in your life to do the things that you care about. And so that little tiny bit of free time that you have, if you're a parent and you work, like it's so valuable. It cannot be wasted on anything. And so I love creating that culture of respect for not just the game, but for that little bit of free time.
This is the only, I mean, in all honesty, and I know for a lot of people, they're not East Coast, but this is the reason why all of the Tabletop Misfits shows are after 9 o'clock, because that's when the kiddo goes to bed, and that's the only time I have free. So,
same.
But Beth.
Cameras off. Cameras off drives me like up a wall. And there's like a thing to it, right, though? Because when I'm working with teenagers, most of the teenagers I work with are really neurodivergent. I work with a lot of autistic kids and stuff like that. So, I establish like, hey, I really prefer cameras on during the games, but if you would be more comfortable, cameras off. Like, I like to make that a safe space for them to do it. Doesn't mean I freaking like it when they turn their cameras off. When I run for adults, I'm like, I have to have cameras on. If you don't vibe with that, like,
Different
find
table.
another table. Like I'm already hard of hearing. I want to see faces. I've run games before where like nobody's camera was on and I just got so exhausted 45 minutes into the game. It's my biggest pet peeve.
April?
Purposefully trying to break the game and purposefully trying to ruin everybody else's fun and purposefully trying to violate somebody else's safety tools that they have said that and their comfort zones. I cannot stand that. If you feel like you need to do that at my table is not for you. And I am okay with you leaving and saying that. So that I don't like that. Like if that's something that you feel like you have to do, then just say, hey, this isn't for me. I gotta go. Like you don't have to hurt people to say, hey, this isn't for me. Just go. That's my biggest one. So.
No, I'm just gonna like just hit that one home purposely, right? Like it's one thing if it's happening and you can correct it on the spot, or you can correct it right after the game and be like, hey, this might not have been the area you wanted to do that, or maybe we need to talk about something. But purposefully and repetitive habits like that, it's time to let's step you away from this table and find you a table that's going to make you enjoy the game if that's really what you're looking for. A lot of times when I was playing younger with years ago, you're getting people who really didn't want to be, like some of them would be there because their friend was there, whatnot, and then all of a sudden they're changing the entire dynamic of the table because they're now just trying to ruin everyone else's fun instead of you enjoying it, whatnot. So completely agree there. And Ashley?
Agree with everybody else's things, with the exception of the food one, because we are a casual table. And I love to cook. And we like make meals for our table, and we've got like baked brie and turkey legs, and
I'm coming over like, oh my god, that's so delicious.
We play in a tavern, like we full cook for this, and that's our vibe, so it works for our table. But it's very much about respecting the table you're at. For me, it's when people step on other people's moments. Like someone's having an RP moment and you like, there is a time to throw in a joke, and you can do it like a little bit. But when it becomes like it's now taken away from that person's moment, I don't raise my voice very often at my home group unless they're like having loud side conversations. I let them kind of whisper. There's 8 of them. I can't make 8 people sit silently for 3 hours. They're
Well, if
going
you throw
to
dice at them, you probably can.
I have hot glue dice for that purpose, and I have used them. I have hit my husband in the chest clear across the long table with my eyes closed because he questioned whether a troll would be able to do that after being blinded and hit a wall with a boulder. I proved him wrong. But stepping on someone else's moment. Like, this is a role-playing game, and we're here to have fun. And especially if it's someone who doesn't normally have those moments. Like, you have your loud players that come up with great things, that are constantly engaging with it. And they're your rock. You can always go back to them. But when your quiet player has a moment and someone steps on it, it drives me crazy, whether I'm a player or whether I'm a GM. And it happens a lot more with female players and female GMs than it does with men, I've noticed. And it might be timbre of voice over Zoom. It tends to get drowned out more. I don't know, but like it drives me crazy. And it's really hard over Zoom. It can be really hard, and it happens. And it's sometimes just completely accidental. But when it becomes a pattern and a single person just isn't able to get out their character moments, isn't able to play out the story that they want as well, it's super demoralizing, and it bothers me so much.
No, you kind of hit, like, that's my main one in all honesty, because a lot of times when we're playing over 3 or 4 different tables and you start seeing those 1 or 2 players that have either they're new players or they're trying to kind of build their character for this one chance, and then all of a sudden somebody steps on, I'm like, so I completely agree.
Also, don't step on the DM's moments either. The GM is a player at the table.
Yes.
Give them their villain monologues.
It goes, yeah, let them have their monologue. Come on.
Don't throw the
So
fireball
long
at
on this thing.
Don't throw the fireball at the boss as he's getting ready to tell his story. Like, leave him alone.
Right? Kind of going into I know someone had said it before, like, and I just had it and now it's gone, in giving the DM that space as well. Everybody deserves to have their story told, including the person who wrote most of it.
I love when Ashlyn gets all fired up. Can we get her all worked up some more?
I have opinions.
I mean, this one we might lose everybody here in a second, because this is the one that everybody's been waiting for on this little crew.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah,
Let's go,
Don't
baby.
do it.
I live to piss people off.
So what is a common misconception about women leading games that you would like to change? Like I said, we're an hour, we're halfway through the session, so let's just wait for everybody to start throwing rocks on this one. So all right, so let's roll off. Let's see who's going to start this question.
Can we like break it down into a 2-parter? Like, what are some of the common misconceptions that people have about women running games? Like, maybe I'm not familiar. Maybe I'm like lucky to be surrounded by like not horrible people, I guess. But like the only one that comes to my mind is like, because I create a lot of content around Dungeons and Dragons, every time I put a lot out there, there's a bunch of people that run to my DMs or run to my comments to tell me how to run my game, which is like weird. I wasn't like struggling to run my game. I didn't solicit any advice. But maybe that is one of them, is that like girls need help to run their games. That's why they're on TikTok. But like otherwise, what are some of them that you guys face out there? Because I know most of you guys even run games for the people in the wild, right? I don't.
So personally, my favorite that has always really stuck with me that happened when I first started streaming a while back was you only play D&D because you're an attractive woman, so you're doing it for attention.
Yep.
You don't actually like playing, you play so that you get attention out of it because only dudes play D&D.
That would be a weird choice for attention.
Right?
There are
I-
like
I-
I can think of a lot of things that would pay better, but okay.
But I've also gotten the same comments because I play Warhammer too. I play 40K. And the comments that I get are, you don't play tabletop RPGs. You don't play these war games. You don't play tabletop war games because you like to. You're just like trying to get some guy out of it. Actually, no. My boyfriend is currently upstairs and he's never played D&D and has just started playing Warhammer. So like, I've done this long before I met him. Like, come on, y'all.
Didn't you guys know girls aren't allowed to have hobbies?
No.
No, we're not.
I'm not, I opened up the can of worms. Let's do this.
And that we only play the supports. That we can't play the fighters. Now, granted, do I usually play a support class? Is that the tiny little box that I fit into? Yes, but that's because I like to do that. That is not based on my gender.
They don't call me the Barbarian Barbie because I'm playing support characters all the time.
Right.
I'm your tank.
I'm
Bam.
not playing a cleric.
Bam.
Because clerics are the coolest class and the most versatile. And I will kick your butt and then I will heal it.
She's not biased.
But the idea that all girls are going to play the elf princess, some of us do like doing that. And that's also okay.
Yeah, there's totally nothing wrong with that.
There is nothing wrong with that. You can play whatever you want because it's a role-playing game.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that attracts us to this game, right? Is like everything's fucking optional, right? You can throw the entire rule book in the trash can if you want to, or you can play it word for word as it's written in the player's handbook.
I don't suggest that one. But yeah. Yeah, so these are the misconceptions that apparently are out there. How would you like to I guess that you kind of answered the question, like how would you like to change them? You kind of answered it in the same way, unless you have more to play into this, which I'm perfectly okay with continuing this conversation.
Oh no, I get it.
I think chicks like this are the ones that are changing the misconception because they're out there and they're not like being anything based off their gender. They're being who they are and playing the game that they love to play the way that they love to play it. And they're not, advertising themselves as, look at me, I'm special because I'm a woman. That's just who you happen to be. And you have so many more things that add value to your hobbies and your passions in the world beyond just being a woman, and being a woman's great too. But you're so much more than that, and it's not your entire identity. And I think that you guys doing exactly what you do out there in the world on stream with your face, showing that you're so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
the more people we have out doing it.
I like when people when they find out, like if we're out and people are like, oh, you guys play, I heard you guys play Dungeons and Dragons, and they'll immediately start talking to my husband and they're like, oh yeah, so tell me all about this. And he's like, she helps me build my character. Like she's the dungeon master. She's the one that, this is like all the terrain that's for her. Like he's very supportive, but it is still very much that, that doctor's joke where, oh, this son and his dad got into a car accident. The dad died. They take the kid to the emergency room. The doctor comes in and they're like, I can't operate on this kid. That's my son. And who's the doctor? And people are like, well, the dad died. You said the dad died in the car accident, right? And I'm like, yeah. They don't think the mom can be a doctor. It's the same thing. It's like, oh, people don't think that she's the dungeon master. She's the one that's into the hobby. It's always got to be the dude's hobby. And no, it's not. So I hate that misconception where it's like, we're just into it because a guy got us into it. No. Absolutely not. So, yeah.
But I think nobody here is a stranger to that, even outside of Dungeons and Dragons. I imagine, Taylor, you get it at the gym, like as soon as you're there, and everyone's like, just assumes that you're into it because it must be for a guy, because doesn't the world revolve around guys? Or, like I
Well,
said,
and oftentimes just everything that we do as women is hypersexualized. So my bodybuilding, hypersexualized. All of my Dungeons and Dragons characters, typically hypersexualized in some capacity. Someone has asked me some kind of weird question about my clown bard, who is supposed to be a child. She's a child.
that's gross.
Stop asking me gross questions about a child.
For a person alone, like seriously.
That's gross.
Is that the one you're playing in Drew's game?
No, so that one we don't play. That used to be my Jubilee, but now I play Jubilee over on Blue Box.
Got
So
it.
she's the bard now.
So unhinged.
Savage. That's right.
That's adorable.
Oh, all right. Anything else to add to that one? Or would you like to move on?
Leave all those
Everybody's
sentiments behind.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
sounds good. So this one's interesting because I've heard it already a little bit. So it'd be an interesting one to see the differences in experience and when you started. So how and when did you first get into D&D? Or TTRPGs, because I know there's multiple TTRPGs being talked about, not just D&D. So everybody roll off.
Oh, there's another
Two.
one.
Teen.
Nat 20.
Whoa.
The first time
Is
you
that
know,
our
nat
first
20 is
nat?
not a great thing to happen sometimes. At least it's a question that's pretty easy to answer. So yeah, April, when did you first get into TTRPGs and how did that kind of come about?
I was in UIL storytelling when I was a kid. I also I had when my first crushes, his family played D&D, and this was like when I was in high school. I wanted to play. I lived in the Bible Belt of Texas, up in town between Amarillo and Lubbock, so that wasn't really a thing that people did. And then we broke up and never got the chance to. So yeah. But then I have this friend group. They're awesome. We would play tabletop games like once a week. I mean, once a week, every Thursday we'd get together and we'd be playing Werewolf and Seven Wonders and all the tabletop games, right? We played Fiasco. So that Fiasco was my first TTRPG. Yeah, it's so much fun. Loved it. And then one day we were sitting around and they were like, "Hey, 5e is about to come out. We should start up a game." And I was like, "Yes, please. Sign me up right now. Yes, please." And yeah, so right when 5e came out, that is when I started playing D&D. We my game group that I've been playing games with for almost a decade, we started playing D&D and haven't stopped since. And then it just snowballed into other TTRPGs and a career. Yeah.
Can't beat that, I'm telling you. Ashlyn.
So growing up, if anybody else was in text-based RP channels on random servers, my gateway drug was the Neopets Warriors Cat servers.
RuneScape, baby. I did it all on RuneScape.
Oh my god, me.
Yeah. I actually, that's when I started writing, was during the guilds for Neopets.
That's how I learned how to make websites. Was I designed so many guilds on Neopets?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my gateway drug. I then
Really, I'm not the only one that had to deal had went that route. So
yeah. I keep finding people who that was their gateway. It's wonderful. My brothers both played in high school, so I'm the oldest, but middle child brother is just a little bit younger than me. So he played 4E back in high school, and I just never played. I had friends who played. I don't know why I didn't. Obviously, with me being me, it would have been I would have been gung-ho about it. But I actually didn't start playing until after I graduated college, when my husband's best friend had learned D&D elsewhere. He's actually currently cooking dinner with my husband in the other room. And he was going to DM for us and pitched the idea to me, my best friend, and my husband to start this. And from his own mouth, and I will confirm that he said this later today, he was like, Ashlyn, you were an easy sell. I knew you were going to be into it no matter what. You needed to convince your husband. And I have since written all of his character sheets. He has never written a character sheet. We've been playing for 6.5 years. I have made all of his characters. I have written multiple of our people's backstories because I saw, oh yes, I get to make a character. Let me write 10 pages of backstory for this character that never got resolved. And then I just randomly tried DMing and then took over for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was immediate. I hyperfixated and it never stopped. I just keep shifting the hyperfixation just enough so that it stays relevant and my ADHD doesn't go, okay, you're done with that now. Which is why I do all the crafts.
Mm-hmm.
And I have so many characters.
I have so many characters.
I have made so many characters because my old stream was all one-shots. I have made so many characters.
The amount of names that I respond to is disturbing.
All my characters have like the same, they all have Kai in it. Every single one of them. Imagine having that many, like 30 characters with some iteration of their name with Kai in it.
I mean, at least it keeps it a little bit. So at least if you hear that specific word, you're like, okay, good.
That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, when I'm in a game with somebody, I'm like, you can just call me Kai. It's a version of that.
I will respond to this no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Taylor.
So I got into D&D by being dragged to a game kicking and screaming about 5 years ago. I had no desire to play. I was asked to play a spot in a game and I was like, I don't want to play that nerd shit. I don't want to do that. And now I have far surpassed the people that I originally started playing with in the amount of games and hours that I put into Dungeons and Dragons by a long shot. It was really, I think, getting to build a character that was really exciting for me, because when I first started playing, she would do this and she would do that. And then it turned into, I want to do this. And then I started playing around with character voices where all of a sudden my dwarf barbarian started sounding like this. And I was the first one to take a voice to the table, and everyone else looked around and said, what's she doing? And then everyone else at the table started popping into sessions with voices for their characters. And ever since, I have like very much prided myself on my NPC voices, my character voices, and that immersive experience, because it's therapeutic for me. Because I don't remember who said it earlier, but being able to play my characters that I create is me bringing out a part of myself that I'm not ready to like introduce to the world yet. I'll write a character that has something that I need to work on, and then I can work on it at the table. So all of my characters are some weird iteration of parts of my personality that people don't usually see. So 5 years ago, I got dragged to a table, and this has become my therapy ever since.
Awesome. Jenny.
I wish I had such a cool story like you guys, but I didn't get into Dungeons and Dragons until I was an adult already. Although I did, when I was much younger, I did have a lot of an introduction into text-based role-playing games, not through Neopets, but through the Red Dragon Inn on AOL, if anybody remembers that. That was my introduction there. And Yeah, Taylor knows. And so it lives on in our hearts. And so
I haven't heard that in so long.
here I am to
Wow.
rekindle something within you. However, I always wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, even as a kid growing up, and I would pitch it to my friends all the time. And I was also playing in bands and touring the world in bands and buses and stuff at the time. And they would say, "Well, that's nerd shit. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. You're not going to like it. You're not a nerd. We're not going to play that with you." And so it kind of was just something in the back of my head that I always wanted to do. I was such a lonely kid that I was always building these fantasy worlds in my head. And then I got the opportunity to finally play Dungeons and Dragons much later as an adult. And I loved building a character, but that was like not enough. I needed to build 100 characters in a castle, in a world, in a kingdom, in a continent, in a universe. And I couldn't stop. And I needed to be all those things because one is great, one is fabulous, and one voice is amazing, but it's just not enough. And now that I had the opportunity to start dungeon mastering for a live stream, actually, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was wonderful in its time, I can't stop. I can't get enough. And here I am now with a bunch of other awesome nerds in a Twitch stream talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
Crazy. Beth.
I was introduced to it as a young kid going to my friend's house, and her brother had like Friday night magic games with his friends, and then there were like a couple times that they were playing D&D, and I remember being like, "What's going on over here?" And my friend was like, "It's stinky boy shit. We're not gonna touch that." And so went in the basement and watched horror movies. So then text-based roleplay, AOL, all that shit, all the way through.
Yep.
Yes. I didn't even, like, as they were saying that, I was like, I wasn't even going to reference that because I didn't realize that was that. But yes.
It was before we knew what the actual, like, we didn't have a rule base to it. We were just like, oh no, we just storytell, and this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was chaos.
Yeah.
Utter chaos.
And then the next experience I had with it was watching Stranger Things with my kids, and my oldest was like, "I want to play whatever they're playing." And I was like, "All right." And then we did.
Do you
And
have the
here I
Stranger
am.
Things box?
Funny enough, no. We never got it.
Oh,
I think it's still at Target.
yeah, that's where I got it from. Like, I got the
I
Jimmy
have it
Corgan mini
somewhere.
right here. Like,
I've never actually
it's my
had
Jimmy
like
Corgan.
I've never actually gotten any of the like 5e
need it.
boxes, but yeah. Yeah, wow. It's crazy because like I have pieces of most of your stories in my own little creation of how I got into TTRPGs. But yes, Neopets was my gateway to I don't know. Does anybody remember the first one they wrote in for their text base?
I mean, it was the Warriors Cats, which was a whole other thing. That's just like Game of Thrones for for little girls with cats ripping each other's throats out. It was brutal. I don't remember exactly which. I was in like 5 different Warrior Cat text RP things. This was just what I did after school in middle school.
Did he freeze?
I think he froze.
I think
I was
he's
like,
like James.
waiting for somebody
I
else
was
to
like,
talk.
oh.
I think he's frozen.
Oh no, is
We-
the whole thing frozen? Okay.
No, my
I
Twitch
can
is
take
Because Aaron wrote-
take over
Oh, there we go.
and totally destroy it. Eric, would that be okay if I just destroy it and totally take over now?
Oh no.
Great. So anyway, welcome back to Tabletop Misfits. We don't need James anymore. So I'll be running the question portion of today, and thank you. I'm your host, Punk Rock Jenny. Welcome James to our Ladies of DM roundtable. And so now we're taking questions from the chat. Let me take a look here and see what's going on. I thought I saw one, but I really am glad that you guys had the opportunity to share your story, and about how you got started. And just like James, I heard a little piece in every single one, except for Neopets. That sounds absolutely twisted. And you're all insane. And I love that about you guys. And so I guess I can hand it back to James, although I could ask questions too.
Oh, that's a good idea. We'll do that at the end. Yeah, no, thank you for just like picking that up and just going with it. That was awesome. I was like, what
You
just
invited a
happened?
bunch of DMs together.
Yeah, I know, it's great. It's the reason I do this, right? Like I can just drop and then it just keeps going. As long as the tech doesn't go anywhere, we're good. This is why I don't run tech all the time. So then as long as it doesn't die.
And Eric just went with it too. I like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Eric's awesome. For everybody who doesn't know, Eric is my tech guy. He does all of the tech for both our Friday or our Sunday streams and our Wednesday streams. He's played in our games before. He's one of my favorite players to have at a table. And yeah, everybody give hands to Eric because can't do this stuff without it. So before we take that idea and have each one of you ask a question tonight to the rest of them, the rest of you, the final question from the chat, or not from the chat, but from the Instagram was, what's your way of running combat? Are you more of a rules as written, kind of wing it? What's the preferred combat method?
Yes.
So, yes.
All of the
And
above.
we'll roll off on this one.
17.
Ooh.
Anybody above a 17?
Mm-mm.
Nope. All right, Jenny.
The question is how do I personally run combat?
Yes.
I am like either, I don't know if it's really fortunate or really unfortunate to play Dungeons and Dragons with people who are like way smarter than me. So I have to run combat in a way that is not as straightforward as it always seems, because they love a challenge. And where I think I'm like, oh, I got them here, they're going to think this is so challenging. Like they either breeze right through it or talk their way out of it or like somehow kidnap the person and burn down everything. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? And so I have a very surprise approach to combat. But if every combat is a surprise, then it's not really a surprise, is it? Because I play exclusively in person, we have amazing maps and we have minis that most of my players aren't crazy about painting, but I love painting miniatures. So we do use maps and minis, and I am kind of a rules as written DM. I'm not a super I allow some rule of cool when it's appropriate. And there's this idea that every dungeon master needs to be a yes and DM. And I think that's a fine rule for beginner DMs. But I also want to remind dungeon masters that it's okay to be a no, but DM also.
I like that.
Yeah, especially when it comes to your world, because if you're constantly saying yes and what you find is that you're breaking the world, and that you're breaking the lore. But if you know and you always give them something more to go with, it's totally fine if you can say no to their really cool idea because you've just fed them new inspiration for whatever the next thing is. And I love that you guys were talking about how one of your player pet peeves was players who like break the world or break the game on purpose, because I think that's such a good point. And Dungeon Master Matt Colville even talks about like that's a player archetype, like the mad scientist who comes in and tries to break the game on purpose. And you never want to get, I mean, yeah, everything's an opportunity to break the game, but if you're constantly making exceptions to the rules, it starts to kind of break down to constantly make it as cool as possible. So sometimes there has to be some gravity in it. So my combat sessions, that was a long way to say, are very realistic, are incredibly tactical, and very gritty. And I think the best thing about my combat sessions, which has taken me a long time to get really, really good at, is pacing. We use a combat timer in our combat. It's not for everybody and it's not for every table, but it is great for my table where they're really smart, where they have to get out their their action, their movement, their bonus action all in a 1 minute span, and they can still role play within that time frame and before and after. But it keeps things moving really quickly. And if I can keep pace really, really quickly. It makes combat super action paced, especially combined with the right music. Something that's really action packed and has that great pacing will always be memorable.
Beth?
Combat. Yeah. I do a mix. I struggle with combat because I suck at simple math. I don't know why. And I hate it so much. And so for the longest time, I was just scared of doing combat, and I flustered my way through it because everybody at every one of my tables, for some reason, is really quick with their math, and they can just, oh yeah, this, and this. And I'm like, what? So some tricks I learned around that is not actually tracking my monster's HP. Just kind of getting a general vibe for like, I think they're done beating the hell out of it. I'm gonna let it die now. And just like encouraging my players to, I'm like, you should keep track of initiative and you should keep track of this and that. Yeah, so it's a lot of by the book, but also a lot of, yeah, you want to do that thing, sure, go for it. So I don't know.
April?
It's different, obviously, with every TTRPG, but a really good resource in a way that will get you thinking about how to run really good encounters and combat encounters is the Monsters Know What They Are Doing book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, it's so easy to be like, the goblins attack. Why do the goblins attack? What's their motivation? What do they do if in this situation? What do they do in this situation? What if your players want to talk to them? Can they talk to them? And different mobs and stuff like that. So knowing what you're throwing up against your, don't just like, oh, I'm gonna I'm gonna put this on the map because it looks cool, which is fine to do. Sometimes if that's what your players want, but if you have players that they want to be the ones that are like, how the hell am I going to defeat this thing? Then you should be the one, as the DM, GM, you should be the one that knows what you're putting up against them and know what that creature, that those people are capable of, and really make it something that's enjoyable mentally, not just on pen and paper, something it's going to be fun mentally for them to try to work through, not just, I rolled my dice and maybe I hit them, maybe I didn't. Because, that can get boring really fast. So know your mobs before you throw them at your players. Yes.
Ashlyn?
So there are two kinds of combat that are my favorite kinds. The first is a monster that doesn't want to kill them, like it doesn't need to kill all of them. My favorite ever monster is a Behir, because they are ambush predators that as soon as they swallow one of your players, they are getting out of dodge. And that changes the entire combat.
It's
if you do not kill that before it swallows one of your friends, this is now a chase sequence. And that changes everything about it. It's not just the monster's going to keep fighting until one of you dies. Very much going off of the monsters know what they're doing. A monster or a situation that there is a purpose and that something is going to shift is my favorite for small combat. And I recently, because I'm running a campaign at level 18, going to go to level 20, I had to learn how big combat works, because they're at the point that they could just take on an army by themselves. So learning certain strategies to make big scale epic combat work without it taking so long. So I chunk my, if there are bad guys that they are specifically focusing on, like there's a select crew that they are tasked, they have a thing that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that are in initiative with everybody. And at the top of the round, I actually roll a die. I roll 2 dice, one for their allies, one for their enemies. and all the things that are going on in the background are then going to be narrated out. If their allies start losing those roles, more enemies are going to start showing up. If their allies start doing well, some of the enemies might get taken out by a new group of allies that have just swung by and managed to take some of the little minions out. And then for all these small scale minions, because you still want them to feel like they're taking on a huge horde without having to have 7,000 minis on the table, they have very low hit points, maybe even just one, and it's just you're slicing through, or you treat one mini as 17 different goblins, and the hit points are, you're able to describe them cutting through these minions, and it makes it so much more epic for the players, as opposed to I hit the thing. Having them be able to fully take out things in a single punch, because let's face it, they should be able to at this point, is really nice for them. In terms of hit points for my big bosses, I actually do something very similar to Beth. I give a range. So I use because every monster stat block is going to have you roll this many d6s, and that's going to be the hit die, or it's going to be the hit points. So I use those hit die, and it's my minimum and maximum. When they hit the minimum, at this point, I'm waiting for a story beat, so that if they're not getting killed by I happen to just hit it with a 1, just throwaway moment. Now, if they do something really cool, or it's this NPC, this bad guy is tied to someone's specific story, I want them to have that moment. I want them to be able to have that final confrontation. I'm not going to force it, because there's going to be that maximum. So if that player, like, something happens and that player's not able to do it, or they decide that they want to focus on something else, they're not doing that fighting aspect, which is also okay. It's their character. There's a maximum hit point. Once it reaches the maximum, then they're dead. They've been sitting in limbo for long enough. They're going to die. Something really, really badass didn't happen, and you guys just kind of piddled at it. Okay, it's dead. At that point, if I've noticed that if someone hasn't tried to do something cool in that window, no one's going to try and do something cool, so it might as well die. And I found that it's fair to the rules. It's not me as the DM deciding when it's going to die and kind of spiting them. No one can say that I'm like trying to spite them as the DM. It's not DM versus PC. It's the DM wanting the story and wanting the characters to have those moments. And it really helps with them feeling badass and them having memorable moments at the table.
Especially at that level 18 level, like, you've got to have those moments.
Yeah.
But at the level,
they're all facing their own BBEGs. Don't kill someone else's BBEG.
Yep.
Taylor.
I play pretty rule of cool when I do combat, where I would say my biggest strength when it comes to doing combat for myself is I like to add to the descriptions that my players are giving. So a lot of the time, especially playing with kids, I don't get a ton of description out of them. It's just like, I just want to slice his head off. So adding in the swing, the two-handed, the sound of the axe as it clashes against their armor that they're wearing, and all that kind of stuff. That's usually where I pride myself, because the storytelling aspect is so huge, especially when you're doing a lot of theater of the mind work. I also really love having minis on the table if I can. Even though, Ashlyn, I know your pain with them fighting armies and having like 15 little minis on the table, because that is a nightmare to keep track of, and people break minis all the time, and then I feel sad about all my minis being in half by the end of a session.
Yeah, if you're wondering why your DM hates you, it's because you just conjured and summoned like 8,000 forest creatures, and we hate you now. We do.
Yes. Yep.
We called it Suddenly Wolves.
Suddenly wolves. Fuck suddenly wolves.
8 wolves.
Yeah.
My initiative is screwed now.
The worst.
Right, but chunking them where you have X amount on the battlefield, I've even like split it up into quadrants where I'll roll 4 times for the 4 different areas because it's just too much to do a roll for each. Sometimes it's too much to do 10 to 15 rolls. So I'll just do like 4 across the board. So depending on where your party is at, you adjust where you're rolling from. So if you have a group behind them, then you roll for that one big group. If you have a whole group in front of them, you roll for that one big group. And honestly, RP is my jam. So combat, I'm typically like, I just want to get this over with as soon as possible. I know it's all part of the game. I know that the players love to do it, but I'm like, all right, y'all have fun, enjoy. Let's all just kill each other and call it a day. Let's get back to RP.
All right. Well, this was both insightful and just a lot of fun. Oh my goodness. Thank you all for joining our second roundtable. I've got some ideas for the next coming up roundtables just from this alone, so I'm really excited to continue these into 2020.
Oh no, did we lose him again?
Anyway, I'm really excited to continue these DM roundtables going into 2022. On behalf of
Do you mean
Tabletop
four?
Misfits,
2022, we're going
I don't know what
backwards.
year it is.
You would be really good.
Listen, guys, it's way past my bedtime. I don't know what day it is. And okay, going into 2024, right, we're going to do DM roundtables. And I'm excited to convince James and Eric to let me host one of them one of these days. And when we do, of course, I'm only going to have all of you guys back.
Hey, we're back.
James,
I watched you like talk.
you. We're doing this without you.
You need to play DM roulette with Blackwater D&D. Like
I'd be down with it. I love
like,
you.
Just
D&D
picking
roulette.
up the stream. Like that's what it is. It's so
Goodness gracious.
I'm
All
into
right.
that.
so much.
Yeah,
We time traveled. You missed it.
Yeah, we're going back into 2022.
I took your stream back into 2022, and you missed it.
Oh, darn. All right. So much fun. Thank you all. Thank you, Jenny, for picking up the slack when I randomly have dropped. And to the rest of you, definitely a lot of fun. Last remarks before we call the end of the stream. We'll do one final roll off to see who starts.
Crap! I lost my dice. What happened?
6.
Y'all, I usually roll so well. You can ask my home players. They hate me. I crit on them all the time. I'm
Aw.
rolling like garbage.
Anybody above a 6? What was that?
I got 13.
I also got 13.
Ooh.
Oh, then I got 12.
I mean, you've been the host a portion of the night anyway, so you can start.
Is that me, the host?
Yeah, the host.
Oh, great. Well,
Hostess
thank you
of the
guys for
hostess.
joining us. I'm your host, Punk Rock Jenny. James, what am I doing here? I'm like saying goodbye and where you can find me. Is
Last
that
remarks.
what I'm
Yeah,
doing?
what you want to share to the crowd, especially after we got a wonderful raid from Lord Gazumba. So thank you.
Oh, yes. I'm going to be on Lord Gazumba's stream Sunday night. I'll be doing a DM's roundtable with Lord Gazumba, and we'll have special guest Forgotten Realms writer Ed Greenwood and Dungeon Master and writer Sly Flourish will both be on the show with me doing a DM's roundtable on Sunday night. So come check that out. Check out Lord Gazumba's channel. My name is Punk Rock Jenny. You can find me on TikTok. James won't be there, but I'll be there on TikTok. And I guess sometimes my stuff shows up on Instagram like 6 months later. And check out valiantadventuringco.com for cool battle maps for your in-person games. And I'm like super honored that I got to be in this group with you guys and all the great work that you guys do for tabletop games and chicks and tabletop games. So thank you guys for letting me be a part of this.
Jenny, I want to be your best friend. You're so funny.
We are best
Right?
friends. Like, it's official.
Yes. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it
Right.
too.
Beth.
I'm Beth the Bard, and I love talking in front of people. Anyways, I'm Beth the Bard, and you can find me at beththebard.com. She's the Ancient is now available in hardcover on DM's Guild. You should definitely go buy a copy for everyone you know for Christmas. And also, if you want to go play D&D in a castle, I'm going to be there in April, and I've got like 2 spots left at my table, and I'm definitely going to be doing some sort of like vampire fairy tale crossover kind of game.
Ooh.
Other than that, check out TTRPG University. I have a Game Master Archetype quiz that is based on the Myers-Briggs. I went through and like hacked the whole thing to gear it towards Game Masters. So there's like 16 different possible results
We
and
should have
stuff.
just done that this whole stream.
Right?
I would, James, have us back on next time, and we'll just run through that and get our Game Master archetypes
Live. Everybody
down.
does it
live.
live.
Yes.
I mean, I'm so down.
So like go check that out or whatever, and that's it. Next person.
All right. April?
Yeah, my name is April Hill. You can find me at stiletto_assassin on Instagram and TikTok, and stiletto DM on X, Twitter, Zitter, whatever. And Blue Sky, I think. Yeah, I like calling it Zitter. But yeah, and so I run Fallout over on Modifius's Twitch channel, and it's every Monday night. So you can go watch us play in the Wasteland and get wasted with us. But yeah, and I'm the community manager there. So if you like games like Star Trek Adventures and Dune, and you want to play in your favorite world like Fallout, then you might like some of our games. So go check out Modifius.
Ashlyn?
I'm Ashlyn. I'm the Dollar Store DM. I do a lot of budget crafting and just general follow the dopamine crafting like the magpie that I am. But I also am the DM for Roleplay Inc., a newish podcast. We're doing a piracy campaign for our first campaign that I'm running. I can be found primarily on Instagram. Sometimes I remember to make TikToks. If you follow the link tree that's been posted in the chat, it's going to take you to all the stuff. You can find me also on Blue Box as a player on Tuesdays. We are doing a little bit of a shift right now, so we're going to be starting a mini campaign next Tuesday. I have no idea what I'm going to play, so if y'all have ideas for me, let me know, because I have indecision paralysis. And yeah, I'm here for a good time. And if you're going to PAX Unplugged this weekend, come and find me. I will be there the whole weekend. I am running 2 workshops on Sunday. They are literally the last 2 workshops of the weekend. The floor will probably be already closed. So like, come and have fun. First workshop, we're going to be making a full tavern set out of like cardstock, paper, and a little bit of like some toothpicks and wine corks.
What?
And then the second workshop, we're going to make 3 different minis. We're going to make some simple bottle cap tokens. We're going to make an air elemental out of cotton balls, and we're going to make a shambling mound out of tinfoil and moss stuff. All of that in an hour. So like speedcraft with Ashlyn at PAX.
I think I have any plans on Sunday. I have to go check that out.
Yes, do it.
I will. All right.
Please, I really hope that there's people there because I bought a lot of materials for this thing.
Taylor.
Thank you all so much for watching. I had an awesome time tonight meeting all of these incredible D&D ladies. This has been really magical, and so many of them I have been following or I've known for like quite a while now, and it's so cool to put voices and faces to the names and the Instagram accounts. So you can find me on Instagram because I don't have TikTok at the Barbarian Barbie. I am there doing a whole lot of bodybuilding. I do a lot of D&D stuff. I am on Blue Box RPG every other Sunday, where I'm on Fall of Red Dawn as Jubilee. I'm going to be hopping in on Tuesdays with Ashlyn. I'm so excited. We're finally playing in a game together. So that'll be Tuesday nights. Again, I also have no idea what I'm going to play. So if you have ideas, shoot me a DM. I'm thinking maybe Paladin, but we'll find out. And then where else am I? Roleplay Inc., which is run by Ashlyn. I play Captain Epony Brink. So I am there as well. And then I have some other stuff behind the scenes that I'm working on. I'm on one other podcast that we're working on releasing the videos as podcast episodes. And then I'm going to be on another podcast that we haven't actually started recording yet. So I have a whole bunch of stuff going on. And yeah, thanks. Love you guys. You're the best.
All right. And that does it for our roundtable for this evening. I, of course, am your host, barkeep, game master of Tabletop Misfits. You can find us every weekend or every weekday on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Sunday nights starting in 2024. This will be the first official shout out. I will also be starting a new stream in January 15th. Please make sure you put this date in. We'd love to have a huge crowd as we start. And that will not be over here, though. This will be on the official Gen Con TV channel at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mondays. So
cool.
Yeah, no, different conversation completely. I'm so excited to be even honored to do that. So thank you once again, all you amazing ladies that are just crushing the community in your own amazing way. I don't know what else to say, but everybody have a wonderful evening, and I'm going to let everybody get some rest. So have a good night.
Good night. Thanks for having us. I'm going to sign off while screaming. Ah!
Stick around. Make sure you do your raid.
What the raids? Do the things.
I don't know.